You know, sometimes life feels like it's quietly slipping away between our fingers. We wake up, do what we have to, smile when we're supposed to, but deep inside, something feels tired. Maybe it's the weight of old memories, or the fear of what's coming next. Maybe we've carried so many burdens for so long that we've forgotten what peace actually feels like. If that sounds familiar, maybe today we can just sit together for a while and breathe. You see, the Buddha once said that peace isn't something we find outside. It's something we uncover when we finally stop running. Life has a funny way of giving us everything we need to wake up, but most of us spend our years fighting what is. We want things to go our way. We want people to understand us, to stay, to change, to love us the way we imagine love should look. And when they don't, it hurts. We resist. We tighten our grip. But maybe the real strength isn't in holding on, it's in letting go. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean you stop caring or stop trying. It simply means you stop fighting life. You stop trying to force it to be something else. There's a quiet wisdom in that, a kind of faith that says, I don't know where this path is leading, but maybe it's okay not to know. When I first started to understand this, it changed everything, because I realized how much of my pain came not from what happened, but from the way I resisted it. I was always trying to rewrite the past in my head, what I should have said, what I could have done, how life should have gone differently. But the past doesn't belong to us anymore. It's already done its job. It shaped us, taught us, softened us. The only thing left is whether we'll let it keep us chained or let it set us free. Sometimes I imagine the mind like a river. Thoughts come and go like leaves floating on the surface. Some are light, they pass by quickly. Others are heavy, memories, fears, regrets, and they keep circling like they don't want to leave. But when we stop trying to push the water, stop fighting the current, something amazing happens. The river flows on its own. It always does. It always finds its way home. And that's what peace is, not the absence of problems, but the quiet trust that we'll be okay, no matter what happens. It's the understanding that everything rises and falls, comes and goes, and yet there's something inside us that never moves. Maybe you felt it before, that stillness when you sit in the early morning light, or when you hear the sound of rain on your window, and for a moment, everything stops. That's not an accident. That's you, touching what's real. So maybe the next time your heart feels heavy, instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You could whisper, what is this trying to teach me? Because life isn't punishing you, it's polishing you. It's trying to help you see what's underneath all the noise. You don't need to be perfect to find peace. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to stop running away from yourself. Sit with your heart. Listen to it. Forgive yourself for all the times you didn't know better. We all stumble. We all break. But we also heal. And if these words touch something inside you, if they make you breathe a little softer, maybe this is your sign to slow down, to take care of your spirit, to let this moment hold you just as it is. If you like to keep walking this path together, gently, one step at a time, I invite you to stay with me, to subscribe to this channel, and make it a small space of stillness in your day. No pressure, no preaching, just quiet moments of reflection, kindness, and presence. Because maybe peace isn't something we chase. Maybe it's what's been waiting for us all along, once we stop chasing anything at all. You know, there's something almost mysterious about the way life keeps bringing us back to the same lessons, again and again. It's as if the universe keeps whispering, you're not done here yet. Sometimes that whisper comes through a person we can't quite forgive, or a moment that hurts more than it should. And it's easy to think, why this again? Haven't I already learned this? But maybe that's how the heart grows, not by getting everything right, but by breaking open just enough to let a little more light in. There was a time when I thought peace meant having everything sorted out. No more pain, no more confusion, no more mistakes. But the older I get, the more I realize peace is about fixing life. It's about learning how to rest within it, to stand right in the middle of the storm, and still feel the quiet underneath. That quiet is always there, but we forget. We forget because the world keeps pulling us outward, to chase, to compare, to prove, to hold on. And yet, when you stop trying so hard, when you just sit in the silence and breathe, you might notice that the world isn't against you. It's been trying to guide you all along. Every loss, every delay, every goodbye, they weren't punishments. They were redirections. The universe doesn't take from us to be cruel. It clears space for what we need next. Maybe you lost someone you loved. Maybe you're facing changes you didn't ask for. Maybe you look back on your life and see things you wish had gone differently. That's okay. You're not broken. You're just human. We all have cracks, but that's where the light gets in. The truth is, the heart never really stops healing. It just learns how to hold everything. The pain, the beauty, the loss, the joy, all at once, without pushing anything away. You don't have to know what comes next. You don't have to rush your healing. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is to give yourself permission to be exactly where you are. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you don't have the right words. Maybe you just need to rest, to sit quietly and let the world soften around you. And that's enough. When I look back, the moments that changed me the most weren't the ones where I had all the answers. They were the moments when I finally stopped pretending to be strong, when I allowed myself to cry, to feel, to say, I don't know, but maybe that's okay. There's something sacred in that surrender. It's not weakness, it's wisdom. It's what happens when the soul finally exhales. So if your heart feels heavy today, I want you to know, you don't have to carry it all alone. You can lay some of it down. You can breathe. You can whisper to yourself, maybe I don't need to figure it all out today. Because the truth is, peace doesn't arrive in a moment of clarity. It arrives in moments of softness, the ones we usually overlook. When you notice the way sunlight touches your hands, when you hear a bird sing and for a second, everything feels still. When you sit in quiet gratitude, not because everything is perfect, but because somehow you're still here. You made it through everything you thought you couldn't. That's grace. That's strength. That's enough. And maybe that's what awakening really is. Not some grand spiritual event, not a lightning strike of enlightenment, but a gentle returning to yourself, to your breath, to this moment. Because this right here is all we ever truly have. The Buddha once said, peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. Those words used to sound distant to me, like something only monks could understand. But now I realize he wasn't talking about monasteries or meditation mats. He was talking about the everyday moments, about sitting in traffic, waiting in line, cooking dinner, folding laundry, and realizing you can be at peace even there. Because peace isn't about escaping life. It's about embracing it fully, the light and the dark, the joy and the sorrow. It's about knowing that whatever happens, you'll be okay. Because peace isn't out there, it's in here. So if something in these words speaks to your heart, I want to invite you to keep walking with me. Take a deep breath. Feel the air fill your lungs. Let it remind you that you're still alive, still capable of love, still growing. And if this kind of reflection brings a little more calm to your day, maybe consider subscribing to this channel. Not for me, but for you. So you'll have a quiet place to return to whenever the world feels loud. Because sometimes that's all we need. Not more noise, not more answers, just a small space of stillness. A reminder that even in a world that never stops moving, it's okay to slow down. It's okay to be gentle. It's okay to simply be. You know, there comes a time when you stop asking why life happens the way it does and begin to whisper, thank you. Not because everything suddenly makes sense, but because somehow, even through the pain, even through the silence, something inside you begins to see the pattern. How every broken piece fits into a bigger picture you couldn't see before. There's an old saying, you can't see your reflection in running water. Maybe that's why stillness matters so much. We spend years running, chasing dreams, chasing approval, running from our past, from our loneliness, even from ourselves. But when you finally stop, when you let the water settle, that's when you start to see yourself clearly again. Buddhism calls it sitting with yourself. But really, it just means learning to be at peace in your own company. To not reach for your phone the moment you feel lonely. To not rush to fill the silence with noise. Just sit, breathe. Notice what shows up when everything else fades away. And it's not always pretty. Sometimes what rises to the surface are old memories, regrets, or fears you thought were long gone. But they're not here to hurt you. They're here to be seen, to be understood, to be released. That's what healing looks like. Not perfection, not pretending, but meeting yourself where you are with gentle honesty. There was a woman I once met who told me something I never forgot. She said, for years I avoided being alone because I thought solitude meant no one cared about me. Then one day, I realized solitude wasn't loneliness. It was freedom. It was a place where I could finally hear my own voice. I think about her sometimes, especially when I catch myself filling every quiet moment with distraction. Maybe that's what this chapter of your life is asking of you, to come home to yourself, to stop running from the silence and start listening to it, because silence isn't empty. It's full of answers. And then, as the silence deepens, something else starts to unfold. Forgiveness. The kind that doesn't happen overnight, but quietly, in layers. Forgiveness for others. Yes, but maybe more importantly, forgiveness for yourself. You see, we often hold on to guilt and shame like armor, thinking it'll protect us from making the same mistakes again. But all it really does is weigh us down. Forgiveness isn't about saying what happened was okay. It's about saying I'm ready to let this go, because I deserve peace more than I deserve punishment. I remember someone once saying, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to get sick. And it's true. The pain we hold inside doesn't punish others. It only builds walls around our own hearts. But when you forgive, those walls begin to crumble, and in their place grows something far more powerful: compassion. Maybe the person you need to forgive didn't apologize. Maybe they never will. But forgiveness isn't about them. It's about setting yourself free. It's about saying, I refuse to let this hurt define who I am anymore. And the same goes for forgiving yourself. We all carry stories we wish we could rewrite, moments we'd do differently if we had the chance. But the truth is, you were doing the best you could with what you knew at the time. And that's enough. You can stop punishing yourself for being human. When you learn to sit with your own heart, without judgment, without defense, something incredible happens. The pain begins to soften. The noise in your mind quiets down. You start to see yourself not as broken, but as becoming. And maybe that's what true transformation is. Not about changing into someone else, but remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. If you're listening right now and a part of you feels tired or uncertain or a little lost, that's okay. That's the space where growth begins. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to rush. The universe doesn't move on your timeline. It moves when your heart is ready. So take this moment to breathe. Feel your shoulders relax. Let go of trying to control everything. You don't have to fix life. You just have to live it, one gentle breath at a time. And if these words bring a little comfort to your heart, if they help you feel a bit less alone, maybe take a moment to subscribe to this channel. Think of it as creating a small sanctuary for yourself, a place you can return to whenever the world feels heavy. Here, it's okay to slow down. It's okay to breathe. It's okay to just be. Because healing doesn't come from doing more. It comes from allowing the silence to speak, allowing your heart to feel, allowing life to unfold without force or fear. And when you do, when you stop fighting the flow and start trusting it, you'll find that peace was never something to chase. It was something to come home to. You know, life has a way of teaching us through the things we try hardest to avoid. Pain, loss, disappointment, they're not punishments. They're invitations. Invitations to wake up, to look deeper, to soften instead of harden. Sometimes the very thing we thought would break us becomes the thing that opens our hearts the widest. It's strange, isn't it? How we spend so much of our lives trying to protect ourselves from pain, when in truth, pain is often the doorway to understanding. Without heartbreak, how will we ever learn compassion? Without loss, how will we ever learn to truly appreciate what we have? I used to believe that peace meant never feeling pain again, that once I found enough calm, enough wisdom, life would finally stop hurting. But the truth is, peace doesn't mean the storm stops. It means you learn how to stand in the rain without drowning. Maybe that's what Buddha meant when he said that suffering is part of life, not as a curse, but as a teacher. Every moment of pain carries a message, not to punish you, but to guide you home. The problem is, we're often too busy trying to escape the pain to listen to what it's saying. Sometimes life whispers. Other times, it breaks you open so the light can finally get in. And even then, it's okay. Because healing isn't about never falling apart. It's about learning how to gently gather the pieces and trust that something beautiful can grow from what's left. You might not see it yet, but every scar you carry is proof that you survived something you once thought you couldn't. And that's powerful. Scars don't make you less beautiful. They make you real. They tell your story. There's a quiet strength that grows in people who've known pain. It's not loud or proud. It doesn't need to prove itself. It just understands. It listens more, judges less, loves deeper. That's the kind of strength the world needs. Not perfection, but presence. Sometimes we think healing means fixing everything. But what if healing simply means learning to love yourself in the middle of the mess? What if it means smiling again even when you don't have all the answers? You don't have to rush your healing. You don't have to explain it. You don't even have to understand it. Just trust that every experience, the joyful ones and the painful ones, is shaping you in ways your mind can't yet see. And in time, the pain softens. The tears dry. The heavy things begin to feel a little lighter, not because the world changed, but because you did. You learned to stop resisting. You learned to breathe through it. You learned to find beauty even in the brokenness. And that's when simplicity starts to feel like a blessing. You stop needing so much. You stop chasing so hard. You realize that peace doesn't live in having everything. It lives in wanting less. Maybe it's the sound of the wind through the trees. Maybe it's the warmth of sunlight on your face. Maybe it's just the quiet knowing that right now, in this breath, Everything is okay. Life doesn't have to be perfect to be beautiful. It just has to be real. And when you begin to live from that space, that soft, grateful awareness, even ordinary moments start to feel sacred. Washing dishes, drinking coffee, sitting quietly with someone you love. These aren't small things. They're the moments where life actually happens. So, if you're listening and maybe life feels heavy today, please know you're not doing it wrong. You're not behind. You're not broken. You're just human, learning, feeling, becoming. Take it one breath at a time. Let the pain teach you, not define you. And if these words bring you a bit of comfort, if they make your heart feel just a little lighter, maybe consider subscribing to this channel. Not for me, but for you, so that when the world feels too loud, you'll always have a quiet corner to return to, a place where it's okay to slow down, to breathe, to remember that everything you need is already within you. Because maybe the goal isn't to escape life's storms, but to learn how to dance in the rain, to smile again after the tears, to see that even pain has a purpose, and that purpose is awakening. You are growing in ways you can't yet see. You are healing in places you haven't yet noticed. And one day, you'll look back and realize the pain that once felt unbearable became the very soil that helped you bloom. You know, there's a quiet moment in every journey when you realize you were never really in control. Maybe you thought you were steering, choosing, deciding every turn. But when you look back, you start to see how life was always gently guiding you, even through the detours, even through the storms. And maybe that's the beginning of peace. Not when everything goes your way, but when you stop fighting the way things are. We spend so much energy trying to shape life, to make it fit our plans, our expectations. But life has its own rhythm, its own perfect timing. The more we resist it, the more tired we become. I think we all have those moments when something falls apart, and we whisper, "Why now? Why this?" But then, months or years later, we see the quiet wisdom behind it. The job that didn't work out led you somewhere you were meant to be. The person who left created space for a version of you that was waiting to emerge. The heartbreak that felt like the end of everything. It softened you, made you kinder, more awake. Maybe life isn't something we're supposed to control. Maybe it's something we're meant to trust. There's an old story about a farmer whose horse ran away. His neighbor said, "What bad luck." But the farmer simply replied, "Maybe." The next day, the horse returned, bringing with it 2 wild horses. "How wonderful," said the neighbors. The farmer smiled again and said, "Maybe." The next day, his son tried to ride one of the wild horses, and he fell, breaking his leg. "Such misfortune," they said. The farmer nodded softly. "Maybe." A week later, soldiers came to the village, taking every young man to war, except the son. That's life, isn't it? We call things good or bad, right or wrong, lucky or unfair, but we never truly know. Sometimes the hardest things we go through are the ones that quietly save us. So, what if you stop labeling everything? What if you stop trying to make sense of every twist and turn, and instead just said, "Maybe this is exactly where I'm meant to be right now"? Imagine how much lighter your heart would feel. Letting go isn't about giving up. It's about giving yourself permission to breathe again. It's about trusting that you don't need to know how the story ends. You just need to take the next step and the next, and trust that the path will appear beneath your feet as you walk. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to fix every problem or make every decision perfectly. You just have to show up, open, curious, willing, because when you surrender the need to control, life begins to move through you, not against you. And in that space, you start to see the beauty of not knowing. You start to notice how the sun still rises even when you're unsure, how the body still breathes even when the mind is tired, how the heart keeps beating quietly, faithfully, even after being broken. There's something miraculous in that, something divine. Maybe surrender isn't weakness at all. Maybe it's the highest form of strength, to trust what you can't see, to believe that even when things fall apart, they're falling into place in ways your mind can't yet understand. There's a soft freedom that comes with surrender. You start to smile more. You start to breathe easier. You stop needing everything to make sense, and instead you begin to feel safe. Not because you're in control, but because you finally realize you don't have to be. If you're listening to this and a part of you feels tired from trying so hard, maybe this is your sign to rest, to lay down the heavy weight of needing to figure it all out. It's okay to let life hold you for a while. It's okay to not know. It's okay to trust. And if these words bring a bit of peace to your heart, I'd love for you to subscribe to this channel, not as a favor, but as a gentle promise to yourself. A promise that you'll keep choosing stillness, choosing kindness, choosing to return here whenever the noise of the world feels too much. Because sometimes all we really need is a reminder that we're safe, that we're loved, that we're exactly where we're meant to be. So take a deep breath. Feel it move slowly through you. Let it remind you that even when everything feels uncertain, life is still holding you in its arms. You don't have to push. You don't have to fight. You just have to trust the flow and let the river of life carry you where you're meant to go. Because one day, you'll look back and realize every moment of doubt, every closed door, every unanswered prayer, they were all gentle detours, leading you right here to this quiet knowing that life has always known what it was doing. There's something quietly beautiful about realizing that nothing lasts forever. For a long time, that truth used to scare me. I used to hold on so tightly to people, to moments, to feelings, as if I could somehow stop time just by wanting it badly enough. But life keeps moving. Seasons change. Faces fade. Even the strongest emotions eventually soften. And that's not something to fear. It's something to cherish. You see, impermanence isn't life's flaw. It's life's grace. The reason a sunset is beautiful is because it doesn't last. The reason a flower takes your breath away is because you know it will fade. If everything stayed the same, we'd stop noticing it. We'd stop feeling. We'd stop growing. Maybe that's why the Buddha smiled. Not because everything was perfect, but because he understood that everything was passing. Pain, joy, loss, love, they all come and go, like waves on the shore. You can't hold them. You can only experience them fully, gently, before they drift away. And when you learn to live that way, open-handed, soft-hearted, life begins to feel lighter. You stop clinging so tightly. You stop fearing the change. You start to see how every ending carries a beginning quietly folded inside it. Think about it. The tree doesn't mourn when its leaves fall. It just trusts that spring will come again. The ocean doesn't grieve each wave that crashes. It knows more always rising. Maybe we're like that too. Maybe our hearts are meant to keep letting go, again and again, until we finally realize that nothing real is ever lost. It just changes form. When someone we love leaves through distance or silence or time, it hurts. But maybe love was never meant to be owned. Maybe it's meant to be shared, experienced, and then released back into the universe to take new shape. Every person we meet leaves something with us. A lesson, a kindness, a piece of light. And when we let them go with gratitude instead of resistance, that light stays. There's a quiet wisdom in learning to say, Thank you instead of don't go. Thank you for the laughter. Thank you for the lesson. Thank you for walking with me as far as you did. Because nothing, not even love, is meant to be trapped. It grows best in freedom. And maybe gratitude is what saves us. Gratitude for the mornings we didn't think we'd make it through. Gratitude for the people who showed up just when we needed them. Gratitude for the simple, ordinary moments. The cup of coffee, the warm sunlight, the sound of rain on the window. Those are the things that quietly stitch our hearts back together. The truth is, we spend so much time chasing the big moments, the next thing, the someday, that we forget life is happening right here in this breath. The world doesn't owe us permanence, but offers us something even more precious, presence. So maybe instead of asking life to stay the same, we can whisper thank you for how beautifully it changes. Thank you for the memories, for the lessons, for the love that came and went and left me softer, wiser, more alive. Because impermanence isn't loss. It's the reason we love deeper. When you know something won't last forever, you hold it closer. You notice it more. You live it more fully. That's what makes every moment sacred. So, if you're listening to this right now, maybe take a moment to look around. Notice something small, a color, a sound, a feeling. This moment will never come again exactly like this. But right now it's here. Right now it's yours. And if these quiet reflections help you breathe a little easier, if they remind you that it's okay to let go, maybe subscribe to this channel. Not as a habit, but as a small act of gratitude. A way of saying, yes, I want to keep coming back to this space where stillness feels like home. Because life moves fast. Things change. But here, you can slow down. You can breathe. You can remember that every ending carries beauty, and every passing moment is a small miracle. Maybe that's all we're really asked to do. To live like everything is precious because it is. To love fully. To let go gently. To trust that even as things fade, something new is quietly beginning. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough. Maybe peace isn't something we have to search for. Maybe it's what's left when we stop searching. I think that's the quiet miracle of simplicity. Realizing that the life you've been chasing might already be here, quietly waiting beneath all the noise. There's a certain kind of happiness that doesn't come from big achievements or perfect plans. It comes from the little things, the morning light spilling across your kitchen table, the sound of birds after the rain, the smell of coffee, the way someone's laugh fills a room. It's those tiny, ordinary moments that quietly remind you you're alive, and that's enough. We live in a world that tells us we need more. More success, more stuff, more followers, more control. But when you start to strip all that away, when you sit in the quiet of your own company, you realize how little you actually need to feel whole. Maybe all you need is a heart that's open, hands that are kind, and moments where you can just breathe without rushing somewhere else. I think that's what growing older teaches you. That peace doesn't live in perfection. It lives in acceptance. It's not about fixing life. It's about loving it, even when it's messy, even when it doesn't go as planned. You stop trying to make everything extraordinary and start seeing how extraordinary the simple things already are. There's a deep joy in slowing down, in watching the clouds drift instead of checking your phone, in sitting quietly without needing to fill the space. Life starts to feel softer when you stop racing through it. The days don't feel so heavy when you let them unfold gently, one at a time. And gratitude is what turns those simple moments into treasures. You don't have to wait for something big to happen to feel grateful. You can start right where you are, for the air that fills your lungs, for the meal on your table, for the people who still think of you with warmth. Gratitude isn't a reaction to happiness. It's what creates it. Maybe joy isn't something we find, but something we remember. When we pause long enough to notice what's been with us all along, maybe it's always been here, quietly sitting beside us, waiting for us to slow down enough to see it. And it's okay to have quiet days. It's okay if your life doesn't look like a movie. Sometimes the most beautiful days are the simple ones, when nothing really happens, but you feel a small, steady peace in your chest. That's real joy, not the loud, glittery kind, the soft kind, the kind that hums beneath your skin and reminds you this moment is enough. You don't have to prove your worth to anyone. You don't have to constantly strive to be more. You already are enough. Maybe that's the true simplicity teaches us, that the more we let go, the freer we become, the lighter, the more real. And when you start living from that space, when you wake up and greet the morning not with to-do lists, but with a quiet thank you, something inside you shifts. You stop feeling like life is something to conquer and start seeing it as something to cherish. If these words bring you a little warmth, if they make you smile softly or breathe a little deeper, maybe take a moment to subscribe to this channel. Think of it as keeping a small candle lit. A reminder that peace is never far away. You can always come back here whenever you need a voice that whispers, "It's okay. You're doing just fine." Because in the end, maybe happiness isn't found at the top of some mountain or in some future version of yourself. Maybe it's here, in the sound of the wind, the quiet of the evening, the way your heart still hopes, still loves, still beats. And that's what makes life so beautiful. Its simplicity. The fact that even after everything, you can still find something small and good to be grateful for. That even after loss, there's still laughter. Even after endings, there's still light. So take this moment. Breathe it in. Feel it. Because it's yours. Just a small, simple, ordinary miracle called now. There's a certain kind of peace that doesn't come from fixing anything. It comes from simply being here. Now. Not somewhere else in your head. Not in tomorrow. Not in yesterday. Just here. The older I get, the more I realize that the present moment is the only place where life is actually happening. Everything else is memory or imagination. We spend so much of our lives lost in thoughts, replaying old moments we wish had gone differently, or worrying about things that haven't even happened yet. But when you really stop, when you feel your breath move in and out, when you notice the sound of life around you, something quiet shifts inside. You realize the world isn't rushing as fast as your mind makes it seem. It's you's been running. Maybe that's why mindfulness matters. Not because it's some technique or philosophy, but because it's a way of remembering to come home, to yourself, to this very second, to the truth that right now, in this breath, you have everything you need. Try this for a moment. Just listen. Notice the air touching your skin. Notice the rise and fall of your breath. Notice the sounds around you, the light where you are. You don't have to change anything. You don't have to judge or name it. Just notice. That's all. This is what peace feels like. Not the absence of noise, but the ability to stay calm within it. Not an escape from life, but a gentle returning to it. Sometimes when I catch myself drifting into worry, I quietly whisper, "Come back." Just 2 words. Come back. And it's like a thread pulling me back into the moment, back into the only place I can actually live. Because the truth is, life doesn't exist in the stories we tell about it. It exists in the living of it. The taste of food, the sound of laughter, the rhythm of your heartbeat. When you start to live mindfully, you begin to notice beauty everywhere. in the way light touches a leaf, in the smile of a stranger, in the space between breaths. Even the small, ordinary things start to glow when you're fully here for them. And maybe that's what happiness really is, not a constant feeling, but a moment of awareness. A moment when you're so present that you stop wishing for more. You don't have to meditate for hours or sit cross-legged under a tree. Mindfulness can happen anywhere. Washing dishes, walking slowly, sipping your morning coffee. It's not about what you're doing. It's about how you're being. Maybe the real question isn't what am I missing, but what am I not noticing? Because so often, the peace we're looking for is already here, hidden in plain sight, waiting for us to slow down enough to see it. And sometimes, the simplest way to begin is just to breathe. When you breathe deeply, you remind your body that you're safe. You tell your mind, it's okay. You can rest now. Each breath becomes a soft anchor, bringing you back to this moment again and again. You see, mindfulness isn't about controlling your thoughts. It's about not letting them control you. It's about learning to watch them pass, like clouds across the sky, knowing that no storm lasts forever. And when you start to live this way, something beautiful happens. You stop rushing through life. You start feeling it. You stop trying to hold on so tightly. You start trusting the flow. You start realizing that the present moment isn't just enough. It's everything. So maybe today, instead of planning the next 10 steps, you can just be here for this one. Feel your feet on the ground. Notice the light in the room. Hear the quiet hum of life moving around you. That's mindfulness. Simple, soft, real. And if these words bring you even a little bit of stillness, if they make you pause and breathe, maybe subscribe to this channel. Let it be a reminder, a gentle space where you can return whenever the world starts to pull you away from yourself. Because no matter how far your thoughts wander, peace is always waiting right here, in the breath you're taking, in the moment you're living, in the quiet that never leaves you. So take one more deep breath. Feel it fill your chest. Let it go slowly. And remember, you don't need to chase peace. You just need to stop long enough to feel that it's already here. When we start to live mindfully, really paying attention, something beautiful begins to happen inside us. The more we see clearly, the softer we become. The more we slow down, the more we feel connected. It's almost like mindfulness opens a hidden door inside the heart, and behind that door lives compassion. Compassion isn't something you have to learn. It's something you uncover. It's already there, waiting beneath the noise, beneath the defenses, beneath all the stories you tell yourself. When you become quiet enough, when you truly listen to yourself, to others, to life, you start to feel it again. That tender, natural wish for things to be okay. For yourself, for everyone. Maybe you've noticed it before. When you see someone struggling and without thinking, your chest tightens a little. You want to help, even if you don't know how. That's compassion, rising like a small wave from somewhere deeper than thought. It doesn't judge, it doesn't calculate, it just feels. The truth is, we all suffer. Every single person you meet is carrying something, some hidden sorrow, some quiet fear. When you see that clearly, anger starts to melt. You begin to understand that people act from pain, not evil. You stop needing to be right all the time. You start wanting to be kind. And maybe kindness is the highest form of wisdom, because when your heart is open, you don't just see people, you feel them. Their stories, their hopes, their confusion, their beauty. And in that seeing, something inside you softens. But compassion isn't only for others. It begins with you. It begins when you finally stop treating yourself like an enemy. When you stop punishing yourself for being human. When you whisper, It's okay. I'm learning. I'm trying. That's where healing starts, not in perfection, but in forgiveness. We're so used to being hard on ourselves. We carry so much guilt, shame, regret, like heavy stones we never put down. But what if you could? What if you could look at your past self with the same gentleness you'd offer a child? What if you could say, you didn't know better then, but you do now? And that's enough. Compassion doesn't mean weakness. It doesn't mean letting people walk all over you. It means seeing the truth clearly, the good and the bad, but choosing to respond with love anyway. Because love, in its purest form, is strength. It's the kind of strength that doesn't shout, doesn't demand, doesn't control. It just stays. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is to simply listen, not to fix them, not to give advice, but to truly hear them. Just to say, through your silence, I'm here. You're not alone. That small act can change a person's day, maybe even their life. And sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is to rest, to take a deep breath, to stop running, to give yourself permission to just be. Maybe that's the secret. That compassion isn't a big, dramatic act. It's 1,000 small gestures that say, I care. It's holding the door. It's smiling at a stranger. It's forgiving someone who doesn't even know they hurt you. It's forgiving yourself. The more compassion you feel, the lighter life becomes. You stop fighting reality. You start flowing with it. You stop needing to win. You start wanting to understand. And in that shift, everything changes. Not because the world got easier, but because your heart did. So, if you're listening to this right now, maybe take a moment, place your hand gently on your heart. Feel it beating. Feel that quiet rhythm that's been with you since the very beginning. That's life. That's love. That's compassion, alive inside you right now. And if these words bring you even a small spark of warmth, maybe subscribe to this channel. Not for me, but for you. So whenever you forget this gentle truth, you have a place to return to, a space where you can breathe, remember, and feel human again. Because in the end, compassion isn't something we practice only when the world is kind. It's something we bring to the world precisely because it isn't always kind. It's how we keep our hearts open, even when life closes in. So today, be gentle with yourself, with others, with life, because the softer you become, the stronger you actually are. And maybe, just maybe, that's what the Buddha meant all along. That awakening isn't some faraway goal. It's simply learning to love again and again without conditions. There comes a moment after all the searching, all the trying, all the healing, when you realize that peace isn't something you have to chase anymore. It's what's left when you stop resisting life, when you stop trying to make everything perfect or fair or permanent. It's what appears when you finally whisper to yourself, it's okay to let go. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you give up. It means you stop carrying what was never yours to carry. It means you stop holding on to the idea that things should have gone differently. You stop fighting reality and start trusting it. We spend so much of our lives gripping to people, to memories, to identities, to plans. We think if we hold on tight enough, maybe nothing will change. But life changes anyway. Seasons shift. People leave. Bodies age. Dreams fade and new ones rise. Everything moves. And the more we try to hold on, the more it hurts. But when you finally let go, really let go, something soft happens. The pain that once felt unbearable starts to loosen its grip. You begin to breathe easier. You begin to see beauty again. Because you're no longer trying to hold the river still. You're learning to float. Maybe that's what acceptance truly is. Not saying, I'm happy this happened, but saying, I can live with this. I can still find peace here. It's realizing that life doesn't owe us anything, and yet it keeps giving us everything. Sometimes, letting go means forgiving someone who never said sorry. Sometimes, it means forgiving yourself for what you didn't know then. And sometimes, it simply means allowing the past to stay in the past. No longer a wound, just a lesson. You might think that letting go means losing something. But what if it's the opposite? What if it's how you make space for peace, for new beginning, for light to enter again? There's a quiet strength in surrender. It's not weakness. It's trust. Trust that the universe has its rhythm. Trust that what's meant for you will stay. And trust that even when you can't see it, something kind is unfolding. When I think of the Buddha's teachings, I don't hear commandments or rules. I hear whispers, gentle reminders like, nothing is permanent. Everything changes. Breathe. Maybe those words are enough to guide us home, if we really let them. So much of our suffering comes from wanting life to be something other than what it is. We want certainty where there's only change. We want control where there's only flow. But the moment we stop demanding, the moment we exhale and say, maybe it's okay this way, peace quietly returns. You see, life isn't asking you to be perfect. It's just asking you to be present, to show up, to feel, to love, to lose, to let go, and to keep walking, one breath, one moment, one soft step at a time. And maybe, just maybe, letting go isn't the end. Maybe it's the beginning of a freer you, the beginning of life lived lightly, the beginning of peace that doesn't depend on circumstances. So if you're listening right now and your heart feels tired, just breathe. You don't have to fix anything. You don't have to figure it all out. Just breathe. You've made it through every hard thing before, and you'll make it through this too. Let the world be as it is for a while. Let yourself rest. And if this space, these words, bring you even a drop of calm, you can subscribe, not just to support the channel, but to remind yourself you're not alone on this path. There's a whole circle of hearts learning to let go with you, learning to find stillness in the middle of a storm. Maybe peace was never far away. Maybe it was always here, under all the noise, beneath all the wanting, just waiting for you to stop, breathe, and return. So tonight, before you close your eyes, whisper softly to yourself, I let go. Let go of what hurt you. Let go of what you can't control. Let go of needing to understand everything. And in that surrender, feel the quiet rise inside you, the kind that says, I'm free. Because you are. You always have been.